So welcome to the March Hangouts of the N8N community, and I am really excited to have so many people here, and I'm also really excited to have so many speakers here today. So we have contributions from the N8N team as well as two rather well-known people from the N8N community, and it's really great to see them in person here and have a conversation with everyone. And so what we will be doing today is we will start off with our product manager, Nick, who's going to be showing you the state of our creator hub and explaining the concept of that. Then Oleg from the N8N team is going to give us an introduction to LLMs and show us a use case of how to build workflows with it. And then we have Oskar and Derek, who are going to be presenting their own projects here as well. And I'm going to be conversating with them. So if there's obvious questions, I'll just have a chat with them and go forward. And as I said, if you have questions, plop them in the chat and we will get back to you after the presentations. All right, with that said, Nick, are you good to go?
I'm good to go, yeah.
Okay, so I'll stop my screen share now and it's up to you.
I think we'll just need to see some examples from, when we start running some TruePress stuff through, we'll be able to see what's required to.
Sorry, Matthew, what's that?
Is that for us, Matthew?
Document. This field cannot be empty. Edit blank.
I will.
I guess not.
A few people.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, perfect. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Bart. As mentioned, I'd like to talk about the Creator Program, which is a new program that we started recently, and I want to quickly introduce it to you and also give you a sneak peek of things that are still about to come. First off, what is the Creator Program? It's pretty simple. It allows you to submit your templates of the best automations that you guys have.
Yeah, we'll mute everyone. Nick, please continue.
You're also muted, Nick, now.
Okay, Bart also muted me. Okay, so let's restart. What is the Creator Program? It's pretty simple. It allows you to submit templates of the best use cases, best automations that you guys have. Your templates then will be part of our marketplace where everyone can see it. So you gain a lot of visibility, currently around 20,000 users a month, or plus 20,000 users a month, which will help you to, for example, show off your skills in N8N. Maybe you're working in the automation space and you want to show your expertise in N8N or in automation in general. It will allow you to build your portfolio as well. So you have a profile there where users can see all your templates. And it also allows you to earn money ultimately via, for example, the affiliate program that is linked with the Creator Program, which currently is around 420 euros per year on average for every conversion that you're creating with your template. First off, let's talk about how to become a creator. It's actually not so difficult. You just visit creators.n8n.io. Sign up there, create a new account, and from there on you can submit your templates. Every template will be reviewed. So if it doesn't meet the quality bar yet, we will come back to you, give you tips on how to improve it, how to make it easier to use for users. Of course, with the goal to get every template that is valuable published to the marketplace. Once your templates are published, you will have a few possibilities to actually gain visibility, with kind of the best one of them getting featured. So that means that your template will then be visible in our featured section in the template place. And we will also start posting your templates on our socials, as you can see here. I will show the featured section later on in what's about to come. And here on the right, you can also see an example from Lucas, where we posted one of his amazing templates that we saw. Additionally, you can also level up as a creator. Basically, once you created some templates that got approved to the marketplace, you will count as a verified creator, which will come with a verified badge that is visible everywhere on your template, on your profile, and also in Discord. And you will also get access to the exclusive creator Discord channel. To have a more direct link to us, we're of course very, very interested to hear what you think of the program, if you have still any pains with it, if there are bugs, to have a more direct link to other creators, but also to us, to the n8n product team. Then to earning money with templates, while earning fame with templates is also very, very good. It's also nice to earn money with templates. Nice to earn money with just building amazing automations with n8n. And you can earn money in two ways. In the future, we will have paid templates. So you can sell your templates via external parties, but it will still be shown in n8n. And also via affiliate. I already mentioned this. We actually share 50% of the money that we make from any template. So basically, once a new user signs up via your template, we'll be sharing 50% of the revenue of this user for 12 months with you, as mentioned. On average, that's 420 euros, or like 50% of that, so 200. 210. And that counts for everything. So it counts for when you share your template in social media, but also if you just create a template that performs very, very good on SEO, this will also get counted. Or if someone just comes to n8n as a site, your workflow is featured, for example, and converts the user to sign up with n8n. This also counts for your affiliate money then. Perfect. Quickly showing an outlook of what's about to come. So as I mentioned, the program is still very new. We're working on a lot of different things. One of the biggest things is the redesign of our template library. And I quickly wanted to give a sneak peek on how that's going to look like. So this is going to be the new design of it. So you can see that it's maybe some of you know the template page already. I think it's becoming much more beautiful. We will have different sections where your templates can shine. For example, something like popular AI templates. Your face will be very, very visible in here to help you gain visibility, actually. And you will also be able to get featured here in one of these sections to get even more visibility for your stuff. And we will also highlight certain creators on this page then. We already received quite a few very, very cool templates, but of course are very, very interested to learn more about super cool templates, about cool ideas, and also to hear feedback from you, because we're basically building this together with you, always trying to make the most out of this program for every creator ultimately. So Bart, you mentioned questions at the end. I'm not sure if we do questions now or at the end then.
Yeah, let's do it at the end. It's a little easier to organize for us, I think.
Okay, yep. Then ignore this slide and back to Bart.
That's fine. Yeah. Thanks, Nick. That was really great, and it's really nice to see how this page is coming together. And I hope it will go live soon. Great. With that, we can switch to Oleg and dive into the world of LLMs and AI.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm going to show you 2 workflows today as an introduction into AI in n8n, maybe to also give you some ideas for the templates you can build to get that template fame. The first one is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be using just a single chain with an output parser. And what it does is that it listens for a Gmail for receipts basically, and for an image of a receipt. And it converts those receipts, or it logs those receipts in a Google Sheet, and then it sends an email as a reply that the receipt was processed. So if we go ahead and send some receipts to my email. send it. And I'll go here. I'm in the debugging mode, so this workflow is not active. So I start the listener, so we can go from the beginning. And you see that I received these receipts. There's 2 of them. We can see that this is the subject, and go forward. So first, there's an if node that checks if there's some binary data, it's not empty, and also if the subject contains receipts. If it does, we go forward to extract those receipts to get them into an array. So now we have 2 receipts in an array. And finally, we pass it to the LM to parse those receipts. So the structure look like this, or the prompt looks like this: extract items and their prices from a receipt and a return JSON. And here I'm sending the message with the message type image binary, and I'm setting the data field name as attachment and item index, and keeping the image details to auto. Now, I also have an output parser connected, which looks like this. And what output parser allows you to do, it allows you to provide like a JSON schema to the model, and then the model would ideally follow that JSON schema. And during the response, that schema, or the response of the model, is validated against that schema. There's also auto-fixing schema. So if your schema would be more complicated, or if you would be using some less powerful model, you could connect it to the auto-fixing output parser, which you can then connect to a model that is smarter and to your original output parser, and it will try to correct that schema. But let's just keep the structured output parser for now. And finally, I'm using the new Cloudy 3 model, the Sonnet, which also has a support for image vision. Let's execute it.
Oleg, while it's doing that, do you need to provide the receipts in some specified formats, or do you need to train it on your receipts, or can you just send it any receipts that you want?
You can send any receipt that you want.
Nice.
So we got some results. Well, let me show you the receipts. So this is the first one. It's for some clothes. Actually, you can see that it's in Czech, so it's not even English. And then second one is for some music instruments. Also, this is not a good quality, so it can really do well with a little. Let's take a look at the results. So if we take a look at logs, maybe we can see that it parsed the second one. There's a total, there's a date, shop name, and the individual items. So on this receipt, there was just a single item. But on the other receipt from the Celio, there were 2 items and 1 tashka, which is a bag. And it was able to correctly parse all these 3 items. Now we can continue to map the items because we are interested in logging the individual items. And right now we have 2 runs, 1 per each receipts. So we map them to items. And once that is done, we get an array that looks like this. There's a schema. So it follows that schema we asked it to follow. And we populate our Google Sheet with these items. So let's do that now. Okay. And finally, we would just reply to that message that this has been processed. So if I would go, oops, I don't see it because of this. And it added it to the Google Sheets. So this is just very bare example of how you could do the vision in N8N with the models that support it. But the use cases for this could be, for example, parsing an invoice or something else that is an image. So
in your experience, how accurate is it? Because your images, as you say, they were not high quality, right? They were just quick snapshots of some damaged looking paper.
So the output from the Cloudy 3 model is really good. So like they're very accurate. They go very in depth describing what is on the picture. Image from GPT-4 Vision, they don't feel so good. So they are not so in depth. So I definitely prefer Cloudy for this task. I also played around with Lava a bit, which is like this open source model that allows you to do the vision. And that also has a decent result. Fortunately, it's not yet supported in N8N. Okay.
And do you have an indication of cost for this operation?
That I'm not sure. We
Ballpark
don't.
figure? Yeah.
I'm not sure how many tokens for that. I could
Okay.
check.
I
would have to go into
I
the
was just
console.
curious if is this 10 cents or a euro, or like what are you paying for this?
It's gonna be closer to 10 cents. So the input tokens were 1,600, and the output tokens were just 130. And they charge for the Sonnet model. They charge what, $3 per million. So it's fraction of
Nice.
the dollar.
This is very impressive. I know we used in my previous job, we used services to do this for us, and you just build it yourself. That's really cool.
Yeah, in 3 steps.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to something more complicated. So this one is gonna be a web search, and it's sort of inspired by Perplexity, where Perplexity allows you to ask questions, then it goes to web for you, and it searches, it does the research basically for you, providing you with answers, with aggregated answers for your question. So how this works is that we have a chat trigger, so we're going to chat with it. Then we have a chain that does the rephrasing, because you might ask a question that might not be very well suitable for a Google search. So we just have this prompt to rephrase the original question in a Google-friendly way. We do, again, some output parsing just to get it in the rephrase sentence format. For this one, we're using GPT-4 Turbo Preview, but we could probably use anything for this simple step. And then we're using the Brave search to, well, maybe let me run it first. What could be the question? It's going to take a while because it's doing a lot of steps. We can watch it on the canvas as it's working. So we're using Brave search to search for that rephrased version. Still loading.
So you're first rewriting the question in order to get more or better results, right?
Yeah, to focus more on like the specific keywords rather than pass the sentence or two to the search engine, which probably wouldn't produce such a good results.
Nice. That's a good trick.
Yeah, so this model is very powerful, but especially if you pass it a lot of context, it can take a while. So here would be the response. Here it mentions the sources. I'm not going to read through all of it, but I would assume they're decent. And here are the individual websites where this info is coming from. And here we can see in the log all the context that we passed to it, that it made that answer from. So if we go back how this is constructed, we use Brave search to just search for the rephrased question. In this case, the rephrased question was beginner guitar learning tutorials. So we search the web for it. We then extract the relevant fields, meaning title and URL, pass it forward to the HTTP request, and we visit each of these URLs to get the HTML content. I also have this if here to check if there's an error, because my HTTP request node is set up to always output data. So even in cases where it fails, because for example, you might be doing this often and you might get blocked by Cloudflare or something like that, or maybe the page doesn't support JavaScript, or it's JavaScript only page, so throw in some sort of error. So we check if there's if it has errors. In this case, it was all good. There's not a single error. So we pass it to the HTML node, which extracts the content from the page. So I'm setting a property named content here. I'm getting the body, because maybe to make this more visible. So what I've got by fetching this page is the whole HTML of the page, which has a lot of things that are not relevant for our model. Like you see scripts here could have links and so on. So we first filter out all these selectors that we don't care about. We also do some trimming and clean up text. So we are left with just the pure content and some links, so on. So this would leave us with the content. We also check if it's a sensible content, because as I mentioned, if you would visit a page that is a JavaScript only, it might show you like a warning that this page is not supported on in browsers that do not support JavaScript. So we also check if the content of that page is greater than 400. It's a pretty arbitrary number, but seems to work. And you see that in this one case, it actually filtered out one result because the content was empty. Now with all this content, so not the whole content is going to be relevant for us. So what we're going to do, we are going to chunk this content and populate our vector store. So by chunking the content, it means we split it using this recursive character text splitter by 1000 characters with 100 characters overlap. So the chunks would look like this. So they are much smaller. And then what we do is we embed these chunks. So we convert them to vectors, and we populate our vector store in these chunks. This is useful in the later step. So I can show you just here. Right now I'm using just a in-memory vector store that is hosted on the server where you're running N8N. And if you would restart N8N, it would actually clear. But for like more sophisticated examples, you might use Pinecone or Quadrant, some stores like that. Interesting thing here is also that in the default data loader, we're also populating some of the metadata. So we're setting title and URL that we've gotten from some steps before in the past relevant fields. And this is so we can later send this to the model and for it to be able to retrieve the individual sources. So you can see here, this is how the chunk would look like for this single page. There's 20 chunks and there's 9 runs because there's 9 pages. Each one of them is going to have several chunks. Okay, so now we have the vector store that is populated. When the vector store is populated, we return all the items that it was populated with. And that would mean that this next step would run 114 times, which is not something we want at this point. So I'm just limiting it here to a single item because we don't care about these items anyway. So we're just fine with a single run. And now we can do the vector store search. So now we search for the user's original question, how to learn guitar. That is not the rephrased one, but what actually user entered. And we are retrieving the chunks. So we're embedding this prompt and we're retrieving the chunks from the vector store that are semantically closest to this question. So if I switch to table here, you see that I've got a document and I've got score, how close it is to the prompt. In this case, it's 70%, which is pretty good. But if we go to the end, it's 59% actually, which is still pretty good. So we have some very relevant content here. And I'm setting the limit to 30 chunks, basically. Now, in the next step, we prepare these chunks, doing some processing. I'm using a code node for it, but probably could also use a set node. Code node was the quicker for me. So because I'm using the Cloudy Tree model, it responds very well to like XML structure. So I'm wrapping these chunks in the XML structure. So we see that we have a context chunk here. It has a URL source. This is coming from the metadata that we populated earlier. And it has the actual content. We return it all and we get this context chunks and the original query. And then finally, we can ask the LLM to provide us an answer. So if I open this query, you will see that given the user's query and the top results from similarity search, provide a detailed answer to the query using the information from relevant results. If no relevant results are found, respond with no relevant results found. And there's some instructions how it should format the response. So this would give us an output like this, which makes sense, but it took a long time. So you see that it took 32 seconds. So we might want to play around with the different models. I have some of them here. So if I disconnect,
Oleg, I'm sorry, we have about 2-3 minutes left. So
I think that's just about right. So if I disconnect Cloudy here, you might have heard about the Grok, which is this super fast and inference model. Currently, they only support 2 models, Llama 60B and Mixtral. So we're going to use Mixtral. And you might know that this is actually an OpenAI node, but we're not going to use the OpenAI, we're using Grok. A lot of these providers for LM providers, they have the same API interface as OpenAI. So you can actually use the OpenAI node by just changing the base URL. That's what we're doing here. So we're changing the base URL to the api.grok OpenAI v1. We're setting some temperature and maximum tokens, and we're setting the model, the Mixtral model. And now if we connect this and execute, okay, it's still not instant, but you see that it was much quicker. It was 7 seconds compared to 35. The response, how is it? Okay. It's all right. It repeats some of the sources, which we've told it explicitly not to do. So that's great, but maybe that's not great, but maybe it could be improved with some prompt engineering.
I think your first model returns some duplicate sources as well.
As well? Okay.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, oh well. So can't blame that one. Yeah, here we also see the tokens. There were almost, well, 11,000 in the prompt, 1,000 in the completion. And yeah, that's about it. You can also play around with some open source models or some local models like Ollama, which I have running locally, but I don't think we have time for that. Usually it takes a lot of time on my MacBook to run this, especially for such a large context. Yeah, and that was it. Thank you for your attention.
Very cool, Oleg. Besides the AI stuff, I learned a couple of nice tricks here in your workflow, in your HTML extraction. Did a couple of things I didn't know about, and limiting to 1 result is something I never thought about either. So
that's
very nice.
impressive, Oleg. Very impressive.
Thank you. With that, please keep your questions for Oleg for at the end of this Hangout, and we are switching to Oskar now.
Yes, hello everyone. Let me just share my screen. All right, could you please confirm that you see it?
Yep, it looks great.
All right, thanks. So I'm going to tell you a bit about data structuring with N8N AI nodes. So this is something that basically Oleg also covered in his short demo. Yeah, let's dive into it, and I will actually use the OpenAI here, so maybe it will be something that you'll find interesting. So yeah, basically I will try to cover it with the like a use case. In this example, we are going to parse resume documents. So here I have like the example document from John Doe, which is who is the software developer, and we are going to extract some of those data, which is education, employment history, and so on, to the structured form, and then we are going to process it in N8N workflow. So what we are going to build actually here is like a very small and easy chatbot that will cover in Telegram. That will be our interface here. We'll use OpenAI for actually parsing, structuring the data. We'll use, of course, N8N to connect it everything together and to process this data. And at the last point, we will actually generate a PDF. And for this purpose, I'm going to use Gutenberg. If you're not familiar with Gutenberg, it's a really cool software. I also have on my YouTube channel a small tutorial about this, so you're very welcome to dive into it. But what we are going to do is actually have this Telegram chatbot to upload this resume. And in the output, we also will receive the PDF. But what is the difference between the one that we uploaded and the second one that we actually received? The PDF that we received is fully made on this structured data. So in this case, it doesn't look quite impressive because it's like just a plain HTML converted into PDF. But we can like select the data that we want to put into this document and actually convert it. So this is one of the things that we can do. We can, of course, add this data into some kind of database with our workflow, but I will focus only here on converting it into actually the other PDF, which may seem to be a bit useless, but it's only for the purpose of this presentation. So
it's
what
is
is
if you receive resumes in very different formats, right? And it all brings it back to one format.
Yeah, so yeah, this is actually, that was actually, the idea, because as far as I know, there are some HR like agencies, companies that struggle with this.
Exactly.
So yeah, I find it actually that was the inspiration here. All right, so here we have like this workflow that is behind it. It may seem a bit complex at first, but actually it's quite easy. The very first part on the left, which are two conditional if nodes. This is actually the authentication for the chatbot. Here, I just want to mention that, yeah, it's the chatbot is only available for the users with specific chat ID. So this is like the very simple version of authentication. Then we are going to extract the data with a native node in N8N, which is the extract from PDF. It's worth mentioning that this node extracts the data from readable PDF. When it comes to the things like scans, receipts, and so on, we need some kind of OCR here to connect. But for purpose of this presentation, I think it's totally okay to use it. Then we'll have like this heart of this workflow, which is the chain with OpenAI model and with parsing subnodes. I will go to this a bit later in the next slide. Finally, we have a bunch of code nodes, which actually only are responsible for formatting the document and making the whole structure. And finally, the generating of this PDF. So when we run this workflow, we will have an parsed output here out of this chain, and finally it should be like generated in Gutenberg and delivered to the user. So this is what is going behind here, and let's focus right now on this chain. So first we are extracting the text from the resume. So as you can see here, we have the full text that we have from our document. The thing is that this text is actually quite a mess right now, so we need to make a structure of it. So for this purpose, we use this OpenAI chat model, and this one has a very specific settings. So at first, I give it a prompt to extract the data, and what is quite important here, I also mentioned it in bold text, we want to receive the unified JSON format. This is because we, as a response mode in options in this subnode, we want to use JSON. So this model will do its best to return the JSON. And as far as I know, it's available for now only in GPT-4 Turbo preview models and of course we set the temperature to 0 because we don't want the model to be too creative at this point. So when we execute this chain, we should receive the structure of the document proposed by the model. So it also doesn't look good right now because this is totally stringified output. And what we need to do right now is simply put it through, go through the schema, JSON schema. This is also something that Oleg mentioned in his demo. So first, here's an example. We have example the name, yes, of the person of this resume, and we need to create the JSON schema for this specific parameter here, right? So of course, I'm not going to do it by myself here. So I simply copy the proposed by the model JSON and ask ChatGPT to create it for me, because this is simply easier and faster. And I can simply operate on already on code that is ready and edit it by myself. I don't need to write it from scratch. So as you can see, this is quite extensive here. We can limit, edit it however we want to have the schema that fits our requirements for this purpose. I'm going to copy it. And the last step actually here is to put the structured output parser, which by default has the schema, and I'm going to replace it with my schema. So when I execute this workflow right now, I should receive in the output not a stringified version of this JSON, but very well parsed data. So as you can see right now, we have a very clear table with the data that we can do whatever we want with it. We can pass it to the database, process it, make a PDF and send back to the user. The possibilities are here actually very broad. So yes, this is how this small project looks like. I will try to prepare this template for a public view. So thank you very much, and highly invite you to subscribe to my channel on my YouTube. I will try to upload something new very soon. Thanks.
Brilliant, Oskar, and a wonderful presentation as well. I really enjoyed watching this and seeing you structure this data. And as you said, I think this is a really relevant use case for people who receive very different types of information, right? So the power of AI and N8N here is pretty amazing. This was great, thanks. We are getting a little short on time, so I'm quickly switching to our last host today, Derek Cheung, who is going to show us a very different type of use of AI.
Yeah, thanks, Bart. Remind me not to go after Oleg and Oskar. Just two good presentations that hard to go after, but I'll try. So this is, as Bart was saying, this is a very slightly different use case, and this is really an investor persona that is that I'm going to show, and I call it autonomous AI SEC 10K analysis. So what, first of all, is an SEC 10K? So for investors, you know, every company will have an annual report. So this is a company that I invest in, NVIDIA. So there's 169 pages of this PDF that really describes all their business and what they do. So this is really useful for value investors. And the use case I want to show is how to use end-to-end as part of the investment process using also this idea of autonomous AI. So the use case is to automatically analyze the SEC 10K to get a depth of insight of the company. So what's really cool about this use case is that we're actually going to use the AI to figure out even what the right questions to ask, right? So as part of getting that insight. And the approach that we're going to use is kind of take two personas. So one is, so the mindset here is that think of it that you've got a virtual team of crew members that perform different things. So for example, you have on your team a senior research analyst who uncovers insights into NVIDIA, and you also have a tech content strategist, the person who then is able to articulate that information after the analyst is finished analyzing this SEC 10K. But here's the architecture here, right? So I'm it's somewhat similar to what Oleg was showing earlier with respect to the vector store. So you know, I'm using end-to-end to and the LangChain support to get this vector store, which I've populated it with the SEC 10K information. And then this is going to be used to kind of like a webhook type of approach where my crew of AI agents will call into NA10, and this will serve as a way to answer the questions, right? So I'll just give you ahead of time. Here's an example of the result that it generates, just kind of give you a feeling on where we're going with this. So this is actual output. This is actual output. What Oleg was showing in his presentation. You're trying to look at, does the model actually produce good output, right? And the Claude models are really good, but I'm using actually for this one, a much cheaper model, right? It's actually the Mixtral model that is actually 27 cents per million tokens, right? So it's very, very inexpensive model, and look at the results that you can get, right? So all with SCC10K information, you actually get this depth of reporting that as an NVIDIA investor, I also learned something new from working through this. So let me show you first let me show you my end-to-end workflow, right? So this workflow, I mean, it's not a very complicated workflow, and it's actually quite simple, right? So there's an upserting part here where you chunk the data and put it. In this case, I'm using a vector store, a super base vector store. And Oleg was showing a memory one. So this one will persist. And so all I'm doing here is using a retrieval model. I did something kind of cool there, but I'll skip that for now. But the idea here is that I use this for the Q&A for my SCC. So I upload it. I upload the SCC 10K information from here, and then I now have this Q&A that I can do this. So, all right. So here is then the thing that drives it. So I am in this. I call it. It's a Riplet. So this is Python code, very simple Python code that I select what the model I'm using. So this is a very inexpensive model. And then I tell it, here's the different personas, different agents. And the key thing here is the tools, right? So this is like, I tell it here, the SCC tools. So I've specified the tool, and this tool is a simple call to the webhook. Okay, so I'm going to hook this up and have this senior research agent call this when it needs to, and then the tech content strategists, they're going to summarize that information from the researcher. And then here's the task, right? The first task is going to be done by the researcher, and they're going to conduct a comprehensive analysis. And I've given it some starting points, all right? And what's cool about this is that it gives there's some starting points, but the AI is able to kind of fill in the blanks in terms of like what questions to ask. And so on the right-hand side is actually a result of the run. So I'll just run it right now just to show you what to expect. Okay, so what this will do is I'll start up this task here. So I'm living a little bit dangerously. I'm doing live demo. Recording may be a better approach, but okay. so you can see here that it's running, right? And it's asking, so the AI is actually figuring out what question to ask. What are the primary business models of NVIDIA, right? And then it's going to go and go to the NA10, and yeah, so it's actually getting this response from the end-to-end workflow. I can kind of show you that it's real, right? So see, it's running right now, and it's calling it, and you can actually see the answers from here, right? So it's actually getting that information from NA10 and the database, and it will run through. And so it'll run through and generate the different kinds of questions and you know, kind of get the results based on you know, doing the question answer and then summarize the report. But you know, it's really cool because it's you know, generating these questions and formulating, getting the answers back from the vector store, and then from there it's gonna put the answers back together. So that's kind of the gist of this workflow. And at the end of this, it takes maybe like 2 or 3 minutes to run, and you can see, you know, that you know, it's right. So at the end, it's going to produce something like this. I mean, there's a little bit of randomness in terms of sometimes it generates larger context or larger output, and sometimes less. But it's generally pretty good in terms of calling the models and whatnot, or calling the tools and whatnot. But I guess what the other thing I wanted to quickly show is that one of the cool things I really like about this use case with autonomous AI and A10 is that you can like the tools using connecting the flows into the tools, right? The crews into the tools, is that, you know, it opens up all the sets of tools, all the workflows that are and templates that are available in A10, and all these agents now would have access to all these different tools as they do different use cases, right? So I think it's super powerful, right? When you now have an agent that is souped up with all kinds of tools that are powered by end-to-end. So anyway, that's a short summary of the use case and example.
Wow, Derek, I think that's the first time I've seen someone have an A10 figure out the questions, or have AI figure out the questions and then answer them as well. That is really interesting approach. And I didn't know about Crew AI yet, so that's really interesting to see too. One thing I want to give you feedback immediately. We saw your webhook URL for a short bit, so you may want to like disable that or change it to make sure.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. So thanks again. We are running a little out of time, but I think we can go over a bit for everyone who wants to stick around. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and sharing the questions that we have from you guys. And I hope it actually works. Maybe not. So I'll just start reading a question here. The first one is about, it's for Nick. The question is, are the templates is the one pay only or can be paid with recurrency? I'm not sure, Yuri, maybe you can expand a bit on that question. Are you asking if you can be paid for your templates work, or? No. Nick, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, I think I also responded in the thread a little bit. So basically, the option of paid templates will be a one-time purchase only, most likely. But affiliates, like whenever you earn a conversion from your affiliate, you will get that money for 12 months.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right, thanks. And then question by Kevin. He asked, does anyone currently use N8N in an enterprise setting? I know a lot of people do, but maybe in this group here. We currently use a different integration platform, but it's limited. I'm wondering if N8N is enterprise grade. Maybe that's a question to take offline. So if Luis, you could collect Kevin's contact information, we can have a chat about that separately.
Yep, for sure. I share that you can visit nan.io/enterprise to get to know more or speak to our sales teams. But yeah, we can also chat offline.
Perfect. Yeah. Ivar's question is interesting. Can we also work with video and AI? Now with the new Sora model, it's not public yet, but are there any services that we can use for video? I think Oleg.
I'm not sure if Runway has a API access. I haven't dwelled in this direction much. One cool example I saw of somebody using GPT for vision was just getting a few frames from a video, like per second. You don't need like all 60 frames or 20 frames. If you get like one frame, then it might be good enough to try to describe what's happening.
Okay. That's interesting. There's also like another direction. I've worked before with an API-based video editing service where you could just send scenes and a cut list and everything and have it return a customized video for you. So it's not AI-based, but it's still very, very powerful for like personalized marketing purposes, etc. So it's really easy to use. Another question from Yuri: how are the models defined? I mean, what if I want a custom model or another Mistral provider, such as Grok? Well, you kind of touched on that already, right?
Mm-hmm. So Grok was what I was using in that demo. You would just override the base URL, and if the provider supports the OpenAI API interface, it should just work. Yeah, you just need to update also the model, and it should work.
Yeah, but this only works for services that use the OpenAI API
Right. Yeah.
formats. Yeah.
Mm. For fully custom models, you would use maybe Olama or Llama AI, which again supports this OpenAI interface.
Thank you.
Or there was a question actually in chat about Hugging Face, and we do have a support for Hugging Face in inference endpoints. So you can host whatever model you want and just provide that with the endpoint and the authentication, and then you can host whatever you want on Hugging Face, that is.
Thanks. Another question: can N8N parse complex JSON responses? I work with some APIs that return complex structures and can't use query parameters to simplify it. Also, can it parse JSON based on conditions? Navigate this array if the name is X. Not sure who the question is for, but maybe Oleg, you can answer that.
So we can work with any JSON. One strong points of N8N are the expressions. So you can do any JavaScript inside the expressions to map over objects, to do some conditioning logic. And if you really need some heavy stuff, you can just use the code node, which again allows you to basically have access to JavaScript in N8N.
Yeah, the flexibility of N8N with the conditions and the different flows would make a lot of this pretty easy, I think. Next question for Oleg's demo: how are you parsing the content inside the XML tags from Claude?
So there wasn't any parsing going on. I've just so I had these chunks and I had the URL for these chunks, and I just used string interpolation to like populate the XML tags to pass it to the Claude. Yeah.
Right. Yuri asks, any idea how I can save the history of the chat and bring it back later with the same user? I suppose you just get that data, right? So you can store it anywhere you like, or?
You would need to use memory node. So for example, agents, they have access to that. Or if you want to implement it on your own, there's a memory manager node, which allows you to also interact with memory and then maybe pass it to the chain. And if you want to have it for the users of N8N, for example, we have this very handy setting in the chat trigger, which allows you to create a webhook or embed your chat, and then you can give access to it to the same people who have access to your N8N instance.
All right, thanks. Let's see if there's more. Kevin again. Kevin has a lot of questions, that's great. Does N8N have advanced error handling workflows? For example, if I set the number of retries if an API fails, or route it to a different step if a step fails.
Yeah, I think we also answered that in the chat with screenshots, but we allow you to do both, like have some error workflow, or for example, if you have if an error happens on the node and you want to handle it on the node level, there's a setting in the node setting that you can have like a separate branch for the errors. So instead of just having like the one output from the node, you would have success output and error output.
And if Kevin, if you want to learn more about error handling, we have 2 courses on our documentation site, and the second course goes into error handling as well. So you can see how that works. And the error handlers are just n8n workflows themselves as well. So you can make them very complex and have them perform any task you need. Jimmy asks, does n8n workflows always output data? I developed a workflow as depicted. I did not see the screenshot here, but maybe you guys did. But it has only been able to send a few submissions to Google Sheets with lots of failed execution. Did you happen to see that workflow, Oleg? Or?
No, I missed that one.
Okay, so that's kind of hard to.
I saw the screenshot, and apparently the error is that Google Sheets was not available. So there's like an error. So basically, whenever that happens, of course, if Google Sheets or the API for Google Sheets is not available, your executions will fail, obviously.
A thing with these services is that you need to be mindful of rate limits. I'm not sure if that was the case here, but if you hammer them with requests, they will deny you for a bit. So it usually makes sense to read their documentations on rate limits and add a wait node in your loop to reduce that a bit. All right, there's a new question coming in live from Neo. There have been many concerns about LangChain's bad abstraction and lack of robustness. Does n8n have plans for AI nodes beyond LangChain, such as Haystack, Semantic Kernel, Langroid, etc.?
Nothing is planned at this point, but we're trying to make the LangChain work for n8n rather than the other way around. So hopefully we can improve some of these.
All right, thanks. I think that is the last question. Yeah, all right. After this, I will disable the presentation and we can just chat, but this was the formal part. Thanks for joining us. We had over 110 people here at some point, which is really impressive. And I'm really glad you took the time to learn about n8n and our AI support. We're going to do another Hangout in early April. If you have an idea of a topic that you would like to know more about, or if you would like to speak here, please feel free to reach out to me at bart@n8n.io, and I'll work with you to get this set up. So thanks for all our speakers. You guys have been great. This has been super interesting. I'm going to disable the recording now, and then we can have our informal chat. So thanks, guys.